So I heard you talk this on Howard Stern, and it's really an incredible story, which is that you became pen pals with Donald Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen,
Yep.
and to the point that you actually went and visited him in prison.
Yes, I did, in federal prison.
So how did it start? How did the pen pal nature start?
Well, he sounds like he's one of my brothers. Excuse me. No COVID, I swear, no COVID. I'll give that again in case you want to edit it. He sounds like he's somebody from my neighborhood, Michael Cohen. Every time I heard him talk, I'm like, what is he, from the next town over on Long Island? Like, he seemed very familiar to me the whole time that I knew of his existence, which was during that whole period when Trump was attacking me on, a daily basis. And I knew from knowing a little about the Trump organization and how it all worked, that it was him who did it. It wasn't Donald Trump sitting there calling David Pecker and Donald Trump making all the plans of how they were going to best attack me. I knew that it was him. So I kind of looked at him with fascination the whole time that I was involved in any way with Trump. And then when Trump got impeached, I kept thinking about him. I'm like, imagine that he gets impeached. He's in the White House, and the guy that told you to do all this, you're sitting in jail and he's sitting in the White House. How does that feel? So I wrote him a letter, and I put a little picture of myself with my daughter in there because I didn't know if he believed that it was me, right? It was a handwritten letter. And about a week later, I get an email from him. Now, I had no idea that they were allowed to use email, prisoners. Did you know that?
I wouldn't have known that.
I didn't know that either. So I was waiting for, a mail delivered by the mailbox, delivered by the mailman, and it was an email. And I was like, they're giving them email. And he was very kind. He said that he was shocked that I wrote him and that he apologized and he was sorry for what he did. And a lot of people had told him that I was a good person and he felt so bad. And so then I wrote him back, and we started sort of writing, and after a few months of that, he said, would you ever come and visit me? I'd like to apologize to your face, and I'd like to talk to you one-on-one, which you really can't do in a prison because there's so many people. And so I go there and I get into this, what looks like a college campus. Like it has no guard gates. It has no towers.
So he's in a very nice jail.
He's in what I believe they call Camp Cupcake. And I walked in, and there he was, and he looked pretty good, I have to say. And we sat and we talked, and next to me was a guy, a friend of Michael's in the prison, and he said, oh, Rosie, don't you remember me? And I was like, give me a hint. And he said, we sat next to each other at Liza Minnelli's 60th birthday party. I was like, what? And he was apparently a friend of Liza's who did some AIDS charity and then got caught or, doing something. He's been in there for since that birthday party. He's been in jail.
So you knew multiple people when you went to visit Michael Cohen?
I knew that guy, and then another guy came over to me and said, my kid goes to school with your daughter. I was like, wow.
Did you, do you feel as though, obviously he apologized to you, Michael Cohen. He seems like someone who appreciates what he did wrong and in general seems to be trying to be a better person. Is that the bounce you got off it when you spoke to him?
That's completely what I got off him. And the great thing he told me was that the whole time he worked for Trump, he had already made his money on his own. And the whole time that he worked for Trump, his wife and kids kept saying, you got to quit that job. You got to quit that job. The whole time he worked there. And he got tears in his eyes, and he said, I just wish I listened to my wife and kids. If I had listened to my wife and kids, I wouldn't be here in this position,
I can imagine when this is over, one of the first things you will do is go see a Broadway show. Is that an accurate guess?
That is totally accurate. I can't wait. That's my big, I don't know how long it's going to take because those seats are so cramped together and there are a lot of money for a ticket, and I'm worried about what the economy, all these unemployed people, it's going to be a tough road after we're out of this, the viral part of it, when we get back to the just living,
You did a reboot of your show to raise money for the Actors Fund. You raised over $500,000. That was an incredible gesture. Is there a way for people, if they want to make a contribution to that, to still do it now?
Yeah, the Actors Fund is great. It serves all actors and people in the industry of theater, like stagehands from Minnesota or people on a touring company. Like it really doesn't just encompass actors, because I had some people say, oh, you rich actors are taking care of each other. No, that's not what the Actors Fund does. So you can go to the Actors Fund and .org and look it up and see what they do, and they have a donate button there too to help people get through this.
Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to watch on Sunday night, and it's always a pleasure. Rosie O'Donnell, everyone.
Thanks, Seth. Good to see you.
All right, be well.